One point with Arnold Gamboa.
Are you discouraged today? Napangwawalan ka na ba ng lakas ng loob? Are you discouraged today? Or maybe you might have experienced being discouraged in the past. Maybe you are downhearted because a project that you've been working on is something that you feel like you need to finish or at a certain time and you haven't really done that. So maybe you are disheartened because you are planning for something big and it is not happening. Maybe you have a vision for your life at this age, at this time of your life, you have something that you feel like you should have accomplished already, and it is not happening. Maybe in if you are a student, you feel like you have certain goals, some grades, but you are not achieving it, and you are discouraged. Or maybe because your relationship is not going well, you feel discouraged. Or maybe for some of you, you feel like you should have some milestones when it comes to choosing a spouse at this point in your life, and you haven't really been achieving that, and you feel discouraged deep inside of you. What can you do if you are experiencing discouragement? Now, some of you, you are Christians, and you're saying, I don't get discouraged because I'm a Christian. Mga Christianese style natin yan, di ba? Sinasabi natin, I'm a Christian and I'm not going to get discouraged because the Lord is always with me. Number one, it is true that the Lord is always with you, and we're going to talk about that later on. But I'm going to give you permission to get discouraged. Because the reality is that being discouraged is a natural response for all of us. Huwag tayong maang-maangan. Kahit Kristiyano ka man, even if you are a Christian, sometimes you get discouraged too. Diba? Huwag kang tatanggi. Nangyayari din sa'yo yan. Even if you are a Christian, you get discouraged too. And I'm giving you permission to do that. I'm giving you permission now to understand where this discouragement is coming from. And the only reason and the only way for you to fix your being discouraged is to figure out where your being discouraged is coming from. You know, if you're going to be asked what disease might be the deadliest or the most dreaded disease, some of you might say that it's cancer. Some of you might say that it's AIDS. Or maybe some of you would say that right now it's COVID-19. It's the most dreaded disease. What I can tell you now, though, is that if you can consider discouragement as a disease, this must be the most dreaded disease. You know why? Number one, discouragement is universal. Discouragement is universal. Everyone can be discouraged. Nobody is exempted. Even if how, positive a person you are, you might be the most positive person on earth. Or again, as I mentioned a while ago, you might be a Christian and you have a strong relationship with God. Even if you are not immune to being discouraged. You are being immune to being downhearted. So discouragement is universal. Number two, discouragement is recurring. It's not going to happen once in your life and that's it. Hindi kayo ma-immune sa discouragement. Discouragement is recurring. You might be discouraged last year, and then because of the things that's happening in your life, you can also get discouraged again the following month, and then maybe last week because of the COVID-19 situation. A couple of friends of mine, even here sa Live City Church, they feel discouraged because of the lockdown. Some of them, nawalan sila ng trabaho again because of the lockdown. And truly, even if you are a follower of Jesus, you'd feel discouraged. Totoo naman yun. Di ba? So, and then lastly, so it's universal, it's contagious, it's universal, it's recurring, and then lastly, because it's discouragement is a dreaded disease because it is contagious. Meaning, you might catch this disease from somebody else. No? If someone is discouraged and you are always with the person, you can still also feel discouraged. And maybe you are feeling discouraged and everyone else in your family or in your circle of friends, you can still also catch the virus of being discouraged, and they can also feel discouraged because you are yourself are discouraged. And so it's very important for us to realize where our being discouraged is coming from. So what we're going to do today for the next, I'm going to make this fast, 20 minutes. Let's try to do it. All right. For the next 20 minutes, what we're going to do is to see a very relevant story in the Bible. Some of you know the story of Nehemiah. And we're going to read this particular portion in the book of Nehemiah, so Nehemiah chapter 4. And we're going to see how we can identify with their discouragement and how we can fix this problem of being discouraged. Now, this book or this story of Nehemiah, si Nehemiah, this common person, common common tao lang siya katulad natin. He's not a prophet, he's not a king. He is someone who is a chef and someone who is not really a born leader. He is just someone who has a burden. May burden siya, and his burden is to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And so, to cut the long story short, you can go back and check out the book of Nehemiah later on if you want to. Very good story about leadership, about finding your purpose in life. Go back, go and check Nehemiah. Ang istorya natin ngayon is that when Nehemiah and his team of Jews are rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, his team felt this dreaded disease of discouragement. And we're going to read this story from Nehemiah chapter 4, and we'll start from verse 6. Chapter 4, verse 6. Sabi dito, so we built the wall till all of it reached half its height. So the people worked with all their heart. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, and the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs of Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead, and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. But we prayed. No? But we prayed, sabi niya. Let me just look at my... Okay. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, eto yung, pansinin niyo yung discouragement nila. The strength of the laborers are giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. They're very discouraged. Also, our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and will kill them and put an end to the work. Then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, whenever you turn, they will attack us. Therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. When our enemies heard that we are aware of their plot and that God has frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. May the Lord bless the reading of his words. The first cause of of discouragements based on these scriptures that we have read is just being plain tired. Just being plain tired. Being fatigued can make you feel discouraged. Basahin natin yung yung verse 6. Sabi dito sa verse 6. So, we built the wall till all of it reached half of its height. For the people work with all of their heart. They built the wall, they're halfway through, and they are now experiencing fatigue. Nakakaranas na sila ng medyo pagkapagod. Have you noticed that? Halimbawa, some of you might have participated doon sa mga 10K, 20K runs. Unless you are like some of us here who has been doing this for quite some time now. Of course, wala tayong mga 5K, 10K run ngayon nowadays. But in the past few years, it has become so famous. If you run 10K, when you hit 5K, 6K, 7K, you felt tired and you felt discouraged. You felt like, you would say, I don't want to go through this anymore. Ayoko na. Tapusin na natin to. Titigil na ako. Lalakad na lang ako. Hindi ko na kayang tapusin to. When you're fatigued, when you're tired, you feel discouraged. And you can notice this. Maybe you have been working so hard. Maybe you've been pushing your limits, your physical limits. And when you become physically tired, when you become emotionally tired, when you become spiritually tired, your spirits are down, you feel discouraged. So, I don't know, maybe some of you, maybe you feel tired, maybe you need to rest, and that's the reason why you feel discouraged, because you are fatigued, you are physically tired, you are emotionally tired, you need physical rest. That's one of the reasons why we are discouraged. The second reason why we feel discouraged is we are crushed by frustrations. Ang dami ng frustrations na dumarating sa buhay mo, and that's the reason why siguro nag-pile up na yan, and that's the reason why you feel discouraged. Basahin natin sa verse 10. Sa verse 10 sabi dito, ito yan. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. Ang daming gulo-gulo sa paligid. The strength of the laborers are giving out. Ang daming magugulo na, ang daming nangyayari sa paligid. Hindi na namin to kaya, sabi ng mga tao na nag-rebuild ng wall. I don't know, for some of you, maybe you have experienced that. When there's a lot of things going on around you, when there's a lot of frustrations that are not, maybe you want to fix something in your life and it's not happening. You feel like you feel frustrated. And when that happens, you feel discouraged. You feel downhearted. You feel like you don't want to pursue, you don't want to go on with what you're doing because you feel frustrated. When there's a lot of rubble around you, ang hirap gumalaw, di ba? Katulad nito, yung misis ko, minsan, ngayon, nadi-discourage na dahil ang daming magulo sa paligid namin kasi naglilipat kami. And I'm not the one that is really, I don't know, this is my weakness, I can't help a lot when it comes to things like this, so all I can do is pray. So yun, kapag ka magulo sa paligid natin, and this is not just physically, medyo emotionally, things are happening, you are getting frustrated, you feel discouraged. So that's number 2. Thirdly, maybe the reason why you feel discouraged is because you are stalled by failures. You're stalled by failures. Tingnan natin yung nangyari sa mga Israelites yung panahon na to. So verse 10, ulitin natin yung verse 10. Sabi dito, meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much trouble that we cannot rebuild the wall. They are experiencing some failures after failures. They will try and they will fail. They will try and they will fail. And that's the thing that discourages them. And I don't know, maybe I can relate with this. Maybe some of you can also relate with this. You've experienced so much failures in life. Failures after failures after failures. And you feel like you giving up. You feel like you're so discouraged. Diba? Ang hirap talaga pagka palagi ka na lang nag-fail. And you can read as many motivational books that you can. And say, you know, when you fail, just press on. Go, go, go. Totoo naman yun. When that happens to you, just, you know, press on. But here's the thing. You're not immune to discouragement. It's not bad to feel discouraged when you fail because that's the reality of life. When you fail, you get discouraged. And maybe some of us, we feel discouraged nowadays because there's been a lot of failures that's happening in your life right now. And lastly, maybe one of the reasons why you feel discouraged is because you're stopped by fears. May mga takot na namumuo sa sarili mo. And that's the reason why you feel discouraged. Dito sa verses natin, let's read verse 12. Sabi dito, the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, whenever you turn, they will attack us. Kasi itong nangyayari sa kanila. They have a plan, and their plan is good. Pero alam mo, ganun sa buhay talaga. Merong mga inggitera, sa paligid nila, ang dami na iinggit. And so, they want to just go ahead and do something bad so that the good plans to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem would be cut down and cut off. And so they fear for their lives. They fear that their plans will not happen because of these enemies that they have. And some of us, including myself, there are times that you feel discouraged because you have fears. You fear for a plan that might not happen. You fear for a relationship that can break down. You fear that your career will suffer when you do something. You feel discouraged. And to be honest with you, a lot of us are experiencing fears because of what's going on around us right now with the COVID-19 situation. You feel fears. And this whole COVID-19 pandemic situation, this will leaves us, majority of us, discouraged. And we have to admit that this whole COVID-19 situation left us, leaving us all discouraged. Because we fear. We have fears. We fear for our lives. We fear for the future. We fear for our careers suffering because of this. We feel fear for a lot of things. Now, let's get into business. Few minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes to talk about this. How can you beat your discouragement?
1 point with Arnold Gamboa.